What's up, guys? Welcome and thanks for clicking on my video. I am Jen. Today I'm going to be doing a get to know me and answering some questions about me. So my most recent video I did before this one was a New Year's video talking about resolutions and my goals and that type of thing. And in the comments was a suggestion from a viewer that said, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and answer some questions? We'd like to get to know you better. So I want to say thank you to the person that asked the question, and it was Vicky Packham 7357. So thank you for the idea. I would love to answer some questions and tell you a little bit more about myself. So I'll just go through the questions that were asked one by one and tell you a little bit about myself. So one of the first questions that was asked was, where do I live? So I am in the Northeast in New England. I live in Rhode Island, which it's the smallest state. It's nestled in between Connecticut and Massachusetts, tiny little state. And I have lived here pretty much my whole life. I have lived in between Providence and Boston and the suburbs in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. My parents are from here. My mom is from Rhode Island. My dad's family is from the Boston suburbs. So most of my extended family is all here as well, which is actually pretty nice because when it's holidays, we don't have to travel. The furthest we have to travel here is about 20 to 30 minutes to go a couple towns over to see each other, and everyone is pretty much here. I actually really love this area. I went to college in Boston and I have lived in Rhode Island most of my adult life as well. I really like it. You know, we're close to Boston, like I said. We go on vacation to Cape Cod a lot. We have some nice beaches here in Rhode Island. I feel like it's a really great location to get to a lot of places. We go to New Hampshire pretty often. We have really nice summers. We get to see the seasons change with the New England weather. So I do like living here a lot. The next question that was asked was, what is my work? So yes, you're correct. I'm probably not going to be able to say too much about my work, but I can tell you that I do work a full-time job. I have a college degree, so I work in like a professional capacity for a corporation. It's a corporate job. I work in a cubicle. I always joke around that it's kind of like one of those Chandler Bing type of jobs where I work in an office, I work in a cubicle, I do meetings, I do stuff, but it's like no one really knows what I do. My experience typically has been in like consumer products and marketing and that type of thing and communications. So that's what I do, but I have worked for a bunch of different companies and I haven't been like at one job for 30 years or anything like that. In fact, I worked for a company years ago where I loved the job and the location was here in my area, but we got bought out by a large parent corporation and they actually offered everybody relocation packages to move to Austin, Texas. And this was when I was in my 20s, before I got married and before I had kids. So I took the relocation package with my company and I moved to Austin, Texas, and I lived there for a year with my boyfriend at the time, now ex-husband, and we loved it. I thought Austin was amazing. I loved it so much. So this was around 2001, 2002 time frame that I lived there. So it was a lot different than it is now. I mean, it's still very cool now, but it hadn't really exploded yet, and it was still very much like the Keep Austin Weird vibes and that type of thing. It's kind of blown up a lot now with some of the bigger companies. It was always tech companies there, but now with Tesla there and everything, it's kind of exploded. And it is a little bit different. I actually went there to visit a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2021. I went there for a trip. And there were some parts of Austin that were unrecognizable to me. It has changed so much, but I loved it there. When we were getting engaged and thinking about our future and getting married and settling down, we did come back up here because we knew we would want to be closer to our families. My ex-husband's family is also from this area as well, which leads perfectly into the next question, which was, are you divorced? And how long have you been divorced? So yes, I am divorced. I have been divorced for about 11 years now. I think this year coming up, 2025, will be 12 years that I've been divorced, which is crazy. I can't even believe it's been 12 years since my divorce. But yeah, so my ex-husband was my high school boyfriend. we met in high school, but we weren't that kind of high school couple that started dating in high school and then continuously dated for 10 years and then got married. We were the kind of high school couple that broke up and got back together several times. So, so we were kind of on and off. And there were times where we were broken up for a couple of years. We both had other relationships with other people. There were points in our life where we were just friends with each other. And I didn't get married until I was 32 years old. So we ran into each other randomly on the street, I think when we were like 30, and started dating. And like I said, we moved to Texas together, lived there for a while, got engaged and came back here. So I was married for about 8 years before we got divorced, which was in 2013. I mean, it depends on what you count from when my husband moved out from when the divorce was final, because it was a year all in. So 2013 is when it was final, when we were finally divorced. And I don't really have like that one sentence soundbite like, why did we get divorced? You know, there wasn't like cheating, there wasn't like substance abuse or anything like that. It was just kind of, you know, I think happens to a lot of people. We just kind of grew apart and it just wasn't functioning as a marriage, unfortunately. And you know, this is kind of this is a tough topic, but I'll get a little deep on it. So, you know, when your marriage is in that kind of state, you have to weigh it out, right? Do I want to get divorced? We have this house, we have these kids. You know, what do we want to do here? And, you know, you think maybe we can just stay together and stick it out. And I know couples that do this. I know people that just stay together for the kids and they live like, you know, roommate type situations, and they just keep their lives together, even though like the spark is gone or the love is gone or whatever. And I think we both thought we could do that, or we wanted to do that. But doing that is a lot harder than you would think, day in and day out. And I think at one point we just both were kind of like, you know, we only have this one life to live. So what do we want it to be? What do we want to do here? And we did end up getting divorced. So that was in 2013, and my kids were really young at the time. They were 5 and 7. So we have done the bulk of our raising our kids and parenting as a divorced family and as co-parents. And, you know, I think we've done a pretty decent job, honestly. I mean, obviously it's not ideal. Obviously it's not ideal for kids. You know, the ideal situation is you grow up in a house with your parents and whatever, but I think we've done an okay job with co-parenting. We always wanted to be like, we're gonna do this together. We're not gonna argue. We're just gonna like whatever. I know other divorced families where they go to the band concert and one parent sits on one side of the auditorium and one parent sits on the other side. And when they go to the parent-teacher conference, one person goes at 10 o'clock and one person goes at 1 o'clock. We made a decision right from the start. We did not want to do it that way. We do everything in conjunction. We try to do everything together. So it's worked. That's worked for us. And, you know, this is the direction we went in for our lives. And I think we've done okay. I think we've done okay for ourselves. And he's remarried. Now my ex-husband is remarried. He's been married for a couple of years. However, I, on the other hand, have never gotten remarried, and I'm not dating anybody currently. I have, you know, dated on and off over the years, and I've talked about that in other videos as well. So when I first got divorced, I wanted to jump into dating right away. And I got on all of the dating apps, and, you know, I was young. I was like 41 when I got divorced. So, and I really thought like, I'm going to meet somebody else. I'm going to have a do-over. I looked at it like, you know, I married the wrong person, but I want a do-over in life. I want to find the right person for me. And I was thinking I was going to get remarried. I was even, honestly, this is crazy, I was open to even having more kids at the time. Like I said, I was only 41. Which is nuts when you think about it. I can't even imagine, honestly, my life now with like another kid. But, you know, who knows? It could have gone in that direction. But I got on all of the online dating apps. I did Match.com and Plenty of Fish and Tinder. I literally did them all. And I went on like a lot of dates, like first dates, second dates, but nothing lasting. So I probably didn't take dating super seriously, and I wasn't super dedicated to it. So, and I set a lot of rules for myself. So we had that typical setup where the kids would go with their dad every other weekend. So I would only go out on a date or go out with somebody on the weekends that my kids were away. So what was happening was I'd go out with somebody and then they would be like, when can I see you again? And then I would say, well, the next time I'm free is in 2 weeks when my kids are with their dad again. So that just didn't really work because it would kind of just like, fade out, and and I had a lot of excuses and like, oh, I can't because I have this, or I can't because that, and my kids and this. And, I don't think I was like super gung ho about it. And I don't think I really was full on like prioritizing it. I prioritized my kids. I wanted to be present for them, and I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. So dating kind of took a back seat for a while. That was in the beginning years. And then when I was 46, I got diagnosed with cancer, and that obviously derailed my dating for a while as well while I was going through my cancer treatment, which is actually kind of funny because I had gone out with this guy right before my cancer treatment started. It was in that period of time between when they told me I had cancer and when they were going to tell me what my treatment was. So I didn't know yet what I was going to be doing for like chemo and whatever. And I had gone out with this guy, and he was like, listen, I don't care, whatever happens. I want to keep dating you. And I was thinking in my head, like, if I'm doing chemo and I lose all of my hair, there is no way I am dating you. And we had only been out one time. So I was kind of like, I don't know. So I didn't continue dating him. The whole time I was doing cancer, my focus was just on that. And like I said, and keeping my family together, and I was working full time. So I kind of had my hands full. So dating was not a priority then. Although I will say that's an example of how like, here's somebody interested in me, and I was basically saying like, no, because blah, blah, blah. And I set a lot of rules for myself, and I had a lot of hard boundaries for myself, and I just really wasn't open to exploring whatever with people. So the whole entire time I had cancer, I was like, you know what, when I'm done with this, now by this point, my kids were getting to be teenagers and they could stay home by themselves. And I would be able to go out and like go out with somebody and like have a night out and not worry about like having to run home for my kids because they were getting to be older and they were starting to drive and they were starting to have jobs. So I was thinking, once this cancer is done and I like get myself back on my feet and I heal and I'm healthy and I'm back to like quote unquote normal, I'm going to really prioritize dating. I'm going to be open. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to give people a chance. And that was my mindset after that. So, and then I did end up meeting somebody that I really liked, and we dated for a while, and I was super into him, and I was starting to think, it's happening. I've met somebody. This is amazing. It's all wonderful. But he didn't feel the same way about me and ended the relationship. And I haven't dated again since then. I was devastated, actually. It was a really difficult breakup for me. I didn't really take it very well. So I haven't dated again since then. And I don't know when I'm going to ever be ready to, like I said, I really liked him a lot. That was a pretty steep cliff to fall off. And I just haven't. I'm kind of all set with online dating apps, and I have mentioned that before. What's out there on online dating, it's just like a train wreck. It is a dumpster fire, and I've talked about this in videos before. So between the phony people, the guys trying to be poly, and like seeing people I know on there, it's just kind of like, I don't know, I'm open to meeting somebody in real life if that happens organically. Hopefully it does, but I'm not going to be doing online dating apps. I want to be open-minded. I want to give people a chance. I want to be receptive. But that's probably going to be the best path for me, is to meet somebody in real life versus online dating apps, which I just don't think are for me. And I don't really connect to people well that way. Like I just like don't really, it's easy for me to lose interest when we're just texting. And oh my God, some of these guys, like I try to ask like a leading question, like an open-ended question, like I'll ask something about that was in one of their photos, like, tell me where you are, where was that vacation, and whatever, and like they'll write back with these one-word answers, and I'm like, oh, help me out here. Another question that was asked was about my breast cancer experience. So I have done a video on my channel before talking about lymphedema, which is a side condition I got as a result of having breast cancer, and I will put a link to that video in above. But I haven't really gone in depth about my breast cancer experience. So yes, I have had breast cancer. I was diagnosed in 2019. I was 46 years old. And I have breast cancer in my family. Like it's very prevalent in my family, and it's not BRCA. We've all been tested for the BRCA gene. We don't have it. We have a different genetic anomaly. So I knew already that I was kind of like high risk, and I was getting regular screenings and that type of thing. Okay, sorry. I was trying to get rid of this like highlight from sun on my hair here, and I just like turned around and looked at it, and now I have blinded myself. So during a screening, they found something, and immediately I had to start the whole process of like, we need to screen some more, and now we need to do a biopsy, and it turns out it was cancer. Luckily, I caught it early, and I was stage 1. So I had a couple of areas. I had a tumor, first of all, like a solid actual tumor, and then another couple of areas where the cells were kind of sketchy looking that they wanted to remove. So I actually had a full mastectomy on one side, on my left-hand side, not on the right. Although I did have some areas biopsied on the right that ended up not being anything. So, you know, when you get diagnosed with cancer, I think they give you some options. Sometimes they'll say, do you want to just have the lumpectomy, or do you want to have a full mastectomy? I just decided, let's just do the mastectomy, because I didn't want to have a lumpectomy and then have to go back and have another surgery and this and that and whatever. So I did have the full mastectomy on one side, and I had reconstruction surgery, which took place a full year later, because I had, after the mastectomy, they put an placeholder implant in. It's called an expander. And then they wait for you to heal and everything and get through your chemo and what have you. And then they do the reconstruction surgery. So I had that. And I also had a couple of lymph nodes removed. They always take a few sentinel nodes to test and make sure that your cancer hasn't metastasized and gone into your lymph system. So I had 4 lymph nodes removed. What ended up happening was I did chemo that entire summer in 2019, lost all my hair, had crazy stuff happen. My chemo actually leaked out of my IV into my arm, and I got like this internal, from the inside out chemical burn, which was like absolutely crazy, insane, and painful. I also had a lot of other complications where I was actually allergic to my chemo, and I went into anaphylactic shock every time I had it administered to me. So suffice it to say, it was not great. 0 out of 10, don't recommend. Yeah, it was like brutal. But anyway, I got through it, and then I recovered, but I still had like a strange lump under my armpit, and I didn't know why. And I kept going to every appointment and saying, hey, I kind of feel something under my armpit still, like, is everything okay? And it was like right away from my surgery. So I still had my drains attached and everything. I wasn't even healed, and they were kind of like, oh, let's see what happens when you heal, whatever. Then it got to be COVID, and all of my appointments went to virtual. And I kept saying, like, something's in my armpit, something's in my armpit. By the time I went back to in-person visits, they were like, oh, that doesn't look so good. We need to do another surgery and remove that. So after having the 4 lymph nodes removed originally with my breast cancer surgery, I had to go back and have more lymph nodes removed. And now this is like literally 2 years later. When was that? When did I have my lymph nodes removed? I guess it was 2021. Yeah, so 2 years after my original diagnosis, which was in 2019. And then I had to do radiation. Now this is 2 years later. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, I'm on the road to recovery. I'm 2 years post-cancer, whatever. Not really. Okay, I had to go back, have another surgery, have more lymph nodes removed, and then do radiation. So my hair was still growing back. It was like crazy. I was like, let me off this crazy train. And then as a result of having the additional lymph nodes removed, that was in February of 2021. By September of that year, I developed lymphedema. It started slowly. I think the first time I noticed symptoms of lymphedema was in August of that summer, and then by October I had my official diagnosis that I had lymphedema, which is a condition of chronic swelling. That's why I'm always wearing this compression sleeve, and typically I will wear a compression glove. And I did it, like I said, I did a whole video about that if you want to know more about lymphedema. So that's my breast cancer story. So I still see my doctors. I'm considered to be cancer free, but I'm still being monitored closely. So I still see my surgeon, I still see my oncologist, I see a lymphedema therapist, and I get screened twice a year to make sure that I'm not having a recurrence. So it was a lot. It was tough. I also, during that same period of time when I was doing chemo and recovering from my mastectomy, I also got Lyme disease. I got Bell's palsy. I had like crazy stuff happen to me. It was like kookadoo. And it was hard. It really sucked. It was awful. But I fought for my life. I'm still here. I made it. I don't know what's going to happen to me in the future. I don't know what my life expectancy is going to be. I don't know how long people live that have done chemo and radiation. I mean, I'm not expecting I'm going to live to be 100 or anything like that. Who knows? I'm just glad every day is a gift. I'm just glad to be here. I want as much time on this earth as I can possibly have with my daughters and enjoying life. Hopefully my health stays good for the future. And then the last thing I'll just mention real quick is my daughters. I do have 2 daughters. I have mentioned them before. One is in high school, one is in college. So they probably will not be in the videos. They have both said they don't want to be. They really, in general, don't really want me talking about them too much and saying too many things about their private life. They know that I have the YouTube channel. They know that I'm doing videos. And they're proud of me, and they watch like the videos sometimes. But they don't want to be in it. They don't want me talking about their private lives and things about them, which is, obviously fine. I try to respect that and grant their wishes and not include them too much. So I will mention them from time to time, but I'm not probably going to talk about too much about them other than surface level things. So that's a few things about me and getting to know me type of stuff. So let me know in the comments if there's anything else I can tell you or any other questions you have. If I get enough questions, maybe I can do a part 2 of this and answer a couple more things. So thanks for following along with me today, and thank you for the idea and the opportunity to talk a little bit about myself and let you get to know me a little bit better. If you like seeing these videos, please give it a like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love to have you add me to your subscriptions. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!